welcome to A Review to a Kill, the James Bond retrospective podcast where we rewatch every Bond from Connery to Craig to review and rank each one. I'm your host, Special Agent Sedgwick, and returning for this debrief is an agent that always checks the back seat before getting in his Bentley.
Chris Carter, and you never know who's in your fucking back seat.
Today, we are reviewing The Living Daylights, the 15th Bond outing from Eon Productions, and the last film to use a Fleming title until Craig's Casino Royale. Based on the short story The Living Daylights, which serves as basically the beginning of the film. They use the real-life Russian call Smert Spionem, or Death to Spies, that they also took from the novels, as Smersh was a portmanteau of the phrase.
It's good to see Smersh back again.
Kind of.
It's a callback.
But they can't touch Spectre, so why not?
You're right, they can't touch Spectre.
The film opening on the 29th of June, 1987 at the Odeon Leicester Square. The premiere was attended by Prince Charles and Princess Diana, who also showed up for a tour of Pinewood during filming. Prince Charles even flipped the switch for a filmed pyro, and Diana famously smashed the prince over the head with a sugar bottle.
I wouldn't necessarily say that was famously. I would say infamously. That was a big scandal when it happened.
Why? It looked fun. It was a sugar bottle. Get out of here.
They were having fun, but man, were the royals upset.
It's shit like this that had her killed.
Yeah. It is shit like this that had her killed.
The reviews were mixed, with critics of the time calling Dalton the best Bond ever, but calling out the movie's plotting pace and tone deafness. Retrospective reviews, however, have been overwhelmingly positive.
It was a good movie. Overall, there was some pacing issues for sure, but I think that had to deal with a lot of them not knowing how to incorporate Timothy Dalton's acting style into their whole shebang, you know?
Oh, 100%. That's not even a guess. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Made for $40 million, it made $191.2 million in the box office. This film was a success, but only won smaller awards, with a Saturn nom being the biggest tip.
I don't know why Bond movies have to win awards. Those guys got a little big in their head trying to win all these awards. They just need to make a good Bond movie.
That's fair. You know, but the good Bond movies usually win awards.
Well, there you go.
Produced by Cubby Broccoli, starring Timothy Dalton, our first real Bond not to be knighted. And I don't count Lazenby in his one-film experiment. They first tested Sam Neill, but Cubby said nah. They tested then an actor they'd tested as far back as on Her Majesty's Secret Service and many times since, Timothy Dalton, who had other obligations. Then they tested Pierce Brosnan. All tests were done with Miriam Dabo, who they'd asked to just test with them, but were so taken by her that she got the Bond girl job.
Was that a good idea? Were they actually taken?
Brosnan won out, but NBC spitefully uncancelled Remington Steele in a desperate bid that only soured all involved. So now Brosnan's out, but the delay had freed up Dalton, and the rest is celluloid.
This was a super big deal back in the day because they had made the announcement that Pierce Brosnan was going to be the next Bond. I mean, not that Timothy Dalton is a bad Bond, but in retrospect, I think it would have given Pierce Brosnan more time to develop the thing, and they could have wrote out 5 shows.
Or Pierce Brosnan would have had 2, and they would have hit the same delays and writer strikes, and Pierce Brosnan would have been out early, actually.
Yeah, that could have been true, too.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have had a totally different Bond before Craig.
Yep, exactly. History would have been completely different. Butterfly effect, bitches.
Butterfly.
Dalton read the books and played the character most like the man from the novels. He wanted Bond to be human, as a Superman is unrelatable and uncompelling. He wanted a harder, darker Bond, but more vulnerable and real. So less jokes and less love, which worked out as Bond was updated for changing views on safe sex, especially with the AIDS epidemic in crisis at the time. Bond was to become monogamous. For the next 2 hours, anyway.
I don't know if that necessarily worked out. It didn't, I guess he was kind of monogamous, but that's not how the movie opened.
Got him. Take that, Mike Wilson.
Let's be honest. Okay, yes, they wanted Bond to be monogamous, but it didn't seem like it worked out that way, and I wouldn't call exactly what he did in this movie monogamy.
This was Broccoli's man, and he loved the tone shift. Moore and Brosnan declined to see the theatrical release out of bitterness, and Sean Connery gave Dalton his endorsement. Desmond Llewellyn also loved working with them as they were fellow stage actors. In Bond news this month, George Lazenby is being canceled for homophobic remarks. The only real surprise is that he's still alive.
I was about to say, George Lazenby's still alive? That's crazy.
The dots roll out, and we're finally treated to our first new gun barrel sequence in about a decade. The Bond theme hits hard and loud, but smooth and polished as Dalton walks out for the first time, obviously hiding something in his right hand, before turning quickly and standing in a braced position. He was going for the most realistic, natural approach of Bond actually walking and firing at someone, but ironically, it makes his walk-in the most awkward. His firing stance is the best so far, though.
His firing stance is good. It's nice and sharp, but the walking was a little slow-paced. Like, I'm just casually going to walk and shoot somebody.
For me, it had never been more obvious that a Bond was hiding a gun behind him until this plate.
The other ones never really tried to hide it.
Hidden in plain sight. They got away with it with me.
Right. So, like, they never really tried to hide their gun.
But he's hiding it, and I'm like, what you got behind your back, buddy? Why are the Bond plates always so blurry and muddy?
It was a little darker, wasn't it?
The barrel plate looks great, and the blood plate has this nice color and opacity to it. But the drip animation looks really cartoonish for some reason this time.
A little bit.
Goddamn 80s.
The 80s.
The dot reveals an establishing shot of a fortified beach and a mountaintop base on the Rock of Gibraltar, before cutting to M in his Admiral bars. He's briefing his agents that this may be a war games exercise, but he has great pride in their division and expects top results. They are to penetrate the radar installations of Gibraltar. The SAS are on full alert to intercept them with paintball-loaded weapons. He wishes them luck, and the tail of the plane opens up, 'cause this time, M's office is on a plane. Surprise!
I know they did this for comedy and everything, but it didn't really make sense to me at the time. Why would M put his desk on the back of a plane when he knew the back door was going to be open? And then be upset because all of his papers fly off his desk. You obviously knew these guys were jumping out of the back of the plane. You're head of British Secret Service. You should be smart enough to realize if you open the door in the back of a moving plane, it's going to be windy.
My whole thing is he had some dudes set dress the back of a
C-130?
And throw in his desk just so he could still feel like he was in an office when he talked to everyone.
Why does he take his office everywhere?
I refuse to do field work. I take my office with me, like the ancient Romans.
Pretty much, right? He's like a Caesar.
The 3 00 agents dive from the plane, and the music is suspenseful and exciting, but somehow very calm and quiet, feeding into the stealth mission tone. The men dive down and parachute in. We see guards and someone else watching the men come into land. One 00 elite agent lands in a tree and is immediately shot by a Tommy, twice, who just calmly says, "That's it, chum, you're out of it," to the chagrin of the worst 00 ever, 002, played by Glenn Baker.
002 looked pretty annoyed that he got shot twice. Because the dude didn't have to shoot him a second time. That was an asshole move on him. Oh, he's still moving. Boom.
Exactly. He's a 00. You got to be sure. Meanwhile, 004, played by Frederick Warder, uses a grappling hook to start ascending the cliffside when the shady man watching them before shows himself above. This is Carl Rigg playing the imposter. When a Tommy shoots the imposter from behind with a paintball, the imposter turns and shoots the Tommy dead with a live round, and the music stings and starts to pick up. He then latches a tag with a carabiner onto the rope and lets it slide down to 004, who reads it and looks up in a cold sweat, screaming, "No!" before the imposter cuts his rope, sending him screaming to a crashing death in an okay dummy fall. It was pretty cool when he crunched himself into the mountain.
It's 1983. That's the best dummy technology we got so far. It's the same dummy technology from the 60s.
Oh, man, get the fuck over it. It's not going to be until like 1994 when Harrison Ford jumps off a dam and they're like, we have like this $100,000 super articulated dummy, and then they throw it and it just looks exactly like that. The screams caused the third agent to turn and reveal himself as our new Bond. And this was a pretty good reveal. And this was way better than Roger just answering his door in the middle of the night. Bond rushes to the cliff's edge and finds the cut rope and dead Tommy. Bond then hears another Tommy grunting as he's shot with a suppressed round and his truck stolen. Bond takes off chasing a truck, which he can somehow catch on foot, because he's Bond.
He does catch the truck relatively easy. It's like the guy couldn't find second gear or something.
I was just going to say, he's Bond. He always catches speeding vehicles somehow.
Even if he's running upstairs.
Yep, exactly. Chasing the Jeep, he's shot by a Tommy with paint, but just shoves the soldier aside in a moment that was 100% unintentional, but nonetheless a perfect metaphor for how this Bond does not have time for silliness when business is at hand. Whereas the last Bond would interrupt chases for comedic bits all the time.
Oh, yeah. Throw a one-liner in, stop, look at the camera, throw a one-liner in.
Non sequiturs, inserts, reactions.
At least we didn't get a pigeon double take.
He dives on top of the Jeep as it speeds along the cliffside. Bond is tossed from side to side and even has to roll to the sides of the Jeep when shot at through the cloth top. The Woo was told not to damage Dalton when getting the action shots, but Dalton kept insisting on doing his own stunts and ramping them up, a la all the rolling off the side of a speeding Jeep on a cliffside with no stunt double or harness. So that's actually him thrown around on top of this Jeep, and they get a lot of great shots for having a Bond that'll actually do shit now. There is some stuntman work and compositing mixed in here, but Dalton did go harder than required.
Oh, man, it's so nice to see a Bond do his own stunts and move around like he's not old.
And not be stuck to super ultra wides and blue screen close-ups back and forth.
Right? It was good.
The Jeep plows through a checkpoint and its guard, causing his partner to fire into the back of the Jeep, which is full of ammunition for some reason. And they catch fire when shot, because, that's how that works. Maybe they were tracer rounds that caught wood and other detritus in the back of blaze.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw that scene.
Regardless, the Jeep is now burning and threatening to blow at any moment. Bond slashes the top of the Jeep and crawls in, fighting the imposter. They crash into a public area and take out some tables with J&B sun umbrellas, the famous James and Bond whiskey. There's about 3 reaction inserts of monkeys alone in this chase. So while Bond doesn't have time for the same silly shit, the movie does. And that's also another perfect unintended metaphor.
That is kind of a perfect unintended metaphor. Speaking of sped by, did you notice the stuntman that jumped off the cliff to avoid being hit by the car?
The Jeep crashes through a stone wall and flies into the air. Bond opens his reserve chute and is pulled out of the back of the vehicle just as it explodes beneath him, sending debris into his chute, ripping it. They tried to just drop a Rover with a guy on it in the Mojave to get this shot, and only succeeded in creating a 4-inch tall Land Rover. So they shot a Rover off the cliffside at Gibraltar with a dummy remotely shooted from the back instead. Bond aims his smoking chute for a large pleasure yacht. Now this yacht was at the time the Moon Maiden 2, but has since been renamed Trafalgar, which I think is so goddamn appropriate with the Napoleonic themes of this movie.
Yes.
We cut aboard the yacht and see Linda, played by Belle Avery, saying, "It's so boring here, Margot. All playboys and tennis pros." Yeah, Octopussy sucked. I get it.
Yeah.
Because Bond and VJ, the playboy and tennis pro.
Right.
If only I could find a real man. As Dalton lands on her craft, takes her phone, and confidently chillaxes as he calls in. This turns her on, and she approaches with champagne, and Bond lets the office know he needs an extra hour. Monogamous, huh, Michael?
And here is the monogamy. And I also wanted to point out that chick looks like a live version of a Patrick Nagel painting. I'm pretty sure that was his model.
Playboys and giant yachts are unexciting. You guys have all the toys and all the money, lady, and a guy just fell from heaven, but instead of questioning it, you're just like, "Thank you, God."
Thank you, Jesus. Oh, a man.
How are you bored? Look at the yacht you're on. Y'all can do anything, go anywhere.
Like, how thirsty you gotta be? This dude just landed on your boat from nowhere, and you're just gonna jump into bed with him, huh?
Yeah, he's just this dude. He's like worse for wear, dirty, wearing like killer clothes, jumpsuit, and he's just like combat boots. And he's just like, "Give me your phone." Oh, yeah. You know what? I will screw you on this yacht. Whoever your friends are, wherever they are. Hope they don't come up here.
You're right? Like, it's really bizarre that they wanted to go that way for the movie, make him monogamous, and
They forgot about that already.
but they forget about that in the pre-title sequence completely.
Gunshot cut to the title sequence. Aha got the call this time, and they tried to match the success of Duran Duran's efforts. They failed.
I don't mind Aha,
I like Aha.
and I didn't mind this song. I like Aha, and I didn't really mind this song.
It's okay.
They did not nail the Bond aesthetic, is all I'm saying.
I don't know. That's not true. I feel like it did. It definitely follows the rules of Bond songs of taking certain notes and elements from the actual Bond theme and tweaking them and building off of those to make the song. It definitely does. Like, John Barry knows how to make his Bond themes.
Right? But I just wonder if the song would have been better if Aha just wrote it for them.
Maybe.
Like the Radiohead song that never got played.
Or Live and Let Die.
Or Live and Let Die. Something like that.
The titles themselves are spectacular. Maurice went off. The girls are only obscured by body paint and clever editing. The headlights fade away on cue with the song. The imagery is cohesive yet diverse, and a lot of effort went into getting the shots needed instead of relying on the same movements and effects with a new gimmick each time. It is truly a perfect blend of every technique he's shown off so far, as we've seen before. When a master does that, it usually gives some of his best or at least more interesting works. Production supervisor Anthony Way. Our 5 production managers return as well. Also back, assistant director Jerry Gavigan, sound recordist Derek Ball, and production controller Reginald A. Berkshire. Art director Terry Snow, set decor Michael Ford. Remy Julian on driving stunts with BJ Worth on aerial. Edited by John Grover and Peter Davies. Second unit director Arthur The Woo Wooster.
Nice.
Special effects supervisor John Richardson. Director of photography Alec Mills. With titles by Maurice Binder. Production design Peter Lamont. Music by John Barry. The Living Daylights performed by Aha. And I like it, honestly. I do. I jam it on Spotify all the time. But it's not on the level of the last song.
Oh no. It is not as good as the last song, but it's better than a lot of them.
All right, that is 100% fair, too. Associate producers Tom Pevsner and Barbara Broccoli.
Yeah. And her name is still in the credits.
Screenplay by Richard Maybaum and Michael G. Wilson. Produced by Albert R. Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson. Directed by John Glenn. Pan to black. Fade in from black to an establishing shot of Bratislava, Czechoslovakia. The Czech scenes were filmed in Vienna, and the theater here is in real life the Volksoper Vienna. The opera is Mozart's 40th Symphony in D minor. The first interval only for some reason before intermission. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Up in a balcony seat, Saunders, played by Thomas Wheatley, waits for Bond. Bond comes in, and Saunders tells him off for being late. Bond, unimpacted, uses his opera specs to spy his target, Russian General Georgy Koskov, played by Joran Krabe. Koskov was Gogol in early drafts, but Gotel's waning health limited him to a cameo in the finale, and this will be Gotel's final film.
Oh, bye-bye, Gogol.
We did love you, though.
And your secretary.
And he loved her, too.
Oh, I'm sure.
A lot.
A lot.
Bond then observes a blonde cellist and asks about her to the typical scoff, and the two depart. How does Bond always seem to ask who he's with about the plot integral female out of an entire crowd?
I don't know. He's got some sort of weird pussy detector.
He's got the DSP. The two men enter a storefront and ascend to the apartment upstairs. Bond preps his sniper rifle, and Saunders marks his territory, telling Bond that Koskov is high up in the KGB and reached out to him personally to defect. Bond isn't here to shoot Koskov. He's there to protect him from potential assassination until he defects.
Ah, the 80s. Russians were fleeing Russia.
Détente can be beautiful.
Rolling across the East German border. It was a weird time.
When Saunders is done being a dick, they head out to a balcony to spot and cover. They spot Koskov when he escapes the opera through a bathroom window. Then, Bond spots a sniper atop the opera house. It's the girl with the cello, and it's obvious she's no sniper. obvious enough to Bond, who shoots her weapon from her hands instead of taking the headshot. They rush downstairs, and Bond takes off in a silver 1986 Audi 200 with Koskov, leaving Saunders behind to deal with the heat for being a dick.
I love how he leaves Saunders hanging out to dry in that moment. He's like, oh yeah, plans changed. You hold this sniper rifle, I'm taking the car.
I'd let you know what's going on, but need to know basis. Suck it.
Suck it, douche.
Bond drives off to smuggle the defector, and Koskov frets that he's being searched for. Bond says, no worries, Yorgi. We've a pipeline to the west, as they drive past a literal sign for the Trans-Siberian Pipeline.
Hilarious. I like how the movie throws in the one-liners and not Bond.
I told you, Bond ain't got time for the silliness, but the movie does.
Yeah.
Krabbe is such a delight as an actor. He has this charm to him that you'd almost let him get away with framing you for killing your own wife.
What movie was that?
The Fugitive.
Oh, that's right.
At the pipeline facility, Bond meets his inside woman, Rosika Miklos, played by Julie T. Wallace. She takes them and shoves Koskov into a pig special made for smuggling humans. Koskov is understandably nervous and asks how many times they've done this before, and Bond says, you're the first. But, when Miklos greeted them, she said, it's great to help Bond again, and I think Bond was just having some fun with him.
Right.
I mean, look at that grin.
I think Bond might have even tapped that thick Russian lady.
Probably has many times, bro. He's Bond.
He's Bond.
The pressure has to build up to a great amount before Bond releases it, and the supervisor, played by Peter Porteous, in the office would notice the control panel light up like Christmas tree. So Miklos enters the office and unzips her jumpsuit before shoving the supervisor's face into her cleavage and trying to commit murder by snoo-snoo. Bond fires Koskov at the speed of sound, and Koskov ends at the other side to Q's waiting arms in, seconds.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if physics were involved, which I know they're not in Bond movies.
Bro is liquid.
Yeah, that dude would be Jello at the bottom of that fucking pig.
How fast did he accelerate? That's all I want to know.
That's all I want to know.
Q whisks him off to a Hawker Harrier to complete his escape. Cutting back to Bond at the border now with Saunders, they drive off to the west as well. Saunders is butthurt and jealous and wants to report Bond to M for not killing the sniper. And Bond says that she didn't know one end of the rifle from the other, but whoever she was must have scared the living daylights out of her.
Boom!
Ba-da-da-da. Roll credits. I like how when Saunders was first still trying to do his plan before Bond took the car and Koskov away, he was like, yeah, I'm going to put him in the trunk of my car, go across the border. And then at the border, the first place they looked, just like Bond said, was in the trunk of the car.
Right. He was butthurt because Bond was right. Saunders a little bitch.
Hard cut to an exterior establishing shot of the Universal Exports building in London.
That's where we work.
UE Media, baby. This MI6 headquarters is in real life the Malaysia House in Trafalgar Square. Hard cut again to the Daily Planet, interior of MI6. Q is running down female KGB assassins, and Moneypenny is ribbing Bond over them. This is our first new canon Moneypenny, this time played by Caroline Bliss. She's attractive, but has a comically large mouth that gives her a Karen face. Her and Bond catch each other's eye and share a coy smile. It's a cute moment that actually feels real.
Yeah, it was kind of natural, their little flirtation there. I liked it.
It's what the Gen Zers call meet cute. Moneypenny tells Bond that M wants him at the Bladen safe house, and just then, a boombox starts blaring in the next room. The trio approach the glass wall to spectate as a tech fires a missile from the music player at a dummy, leaving nothing behind. Something we're making for the Americans, Q says, and he calls it a ghetto blaster. But undone. Moneypenny tells Bond to pick up a parcel on his way, and Bond tells her to look up the cellist from the performance in Bratislava. Moneypenny says, since he's such a music lover, he can come listen to her Barry Manilow collection.
Also hot in the 80s.
The offer is lovingly turned down, and Moneypenny sighs, longingly. And it's a great interaction, honestly, except for the Barry Manilow.
The double butt tap was a little excessive in my opinion, but it was all right.
Carter and my grandma have something in common with Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow's the Kenny G of my era.
Sorry. Cutting to the English countryside, we see a milkman getting strangled to death with a Walkman. The Strangler here is Necros, played by Andreas Wisniewski, who got the job by his own admission by looking exactly like the character description.
I'm not saying he's not a good-looking young man. I'm just saying not the greatest actor.
Barbara was like, ooh, Dad, I want to work on these films now.
I gotta have me some of that one.
We then cut to Bond arriving in a 1985 dark Aston Martin V8 Volante at the Bladen Safe House, the real-life stoner house in Gardens. He is disarmed and then enters carrying a picnic basket. Inside, he finds Koskov with him, Minister Grey, and other suits. Bond gives Koskov the basket of goodies: vodka, caviar, foie gras, the essentials.
The essentials. I'm beginning to believe Bond carries around Bollinger and foie gras with him everywhere he goes.
Well, she said to pick up the parcel. That's what it was.
Yes, I know.
You know, he's not like he's just like, yeah, here, I've got this bottle of Bollinger up my ass.
Yeah, but no.
Obviously, it's in his glove compartment.
He actually made some changes and put it on M's dime. The dude likes his expensive champagne for some reason.
Even when it's for someone else.
Even when it's for someone else.
M looks annoyed that his goodie basket parcel was made so expensive, and Bond says, well, some items on the list were unacceptable, so I took liberties.
He's an ass.
Cutting outside, we see Necros pull up to the Bladen House gate in the milk truck and man's uniform. When Necros first bumped into the milkman before killing him, he spoke with an American accent, albeit a bad one. And now, he's speaking to the gate guard in an English accent.
A master chameleon.
Cutting back inside, Koskov says he wants to defect because General Pushkin is the worst. Just the biggest dick. I hate that guy. Ugh. Also, he's got this program called Smirt Spionum, Death to Spies, and he's a list of English and American spies to pop off in hopes of starting an ever-increasing retaliation war to nullify détente. God forbid this might lead to nuclear war. Unless Pushkin can be, how do you say, put away?
Put away. Like on a shelf or
in jail? In Siberia? Don't you guys do that yourselves?
You're gonna have to be more specific, buddy.
This guy is sus as fuck from the get-go.
Pretty sus from the get-go.
The sniper trying to prevent his defection couldn't have killed him if she did want to. And now it blatantly sounds as if this guy is trying to manipulate us into assassinating a political rival in an idealistically opposed nation. And yeah, we've seen the movie, but it's still obvious. And if this were real life, we'd be questioning this guy by now, at least pondering.
Back in the 80s when people defected, we didn't just take their word for anything.
Welcome to America.
Pretty much treated those people as spies for most of their lives, if I remember correctly.
In 3 days, Pushkin will be in Tangier for the North African Trade Convention. M suggests they reconvene in London, and the minister concurs, causing them to just leave immediately. Minister Grey barely says anything, and was pretty much just there, as Keane was also in poor health, and this is also Keane's last film.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know that. So that was the last time we're going to see Minister Grey, huh? Well, that's good, because I'm tired of his ass.
With everyone gone but Koskov, Necros enters and strangles the cook before fighting the butler. The butler, played by Bill Weston, is no pushover. He was in The Spy Who Loved Me and Octopussy. He was in 2001 Space Odyssey and Star Wars. He was in The Raiders of the Lost Ark, Krull, Aliens, Hellraiser, 89 Batman, and the 80s Bourne Identity, which I didn't even know was a thing until now.
Yeah, you didn't?
He's a badass.
Yeah, apparently. He's been in fucking every 80s action movie ever made.
But eventually he's grilled and fried, and Necros uses his radio to call out a gas leak in the building. He then makes his way through the manor, throwing milk jars laden with explosives. Necros again radios, saying that there's been some gas explosions, keep away. And Koskov spots Necros and screams, KGB, before cheesing it. Necros takes Koskov at gunpoint and tosses more milk bombs. In the kitchen, they see a metacopter coming in to land, and Koskov asks who it's for. You, comrade, Necros says, now in a Russian accent. Talented fella.
Super talented fella. Like I said, a chameleon.
He knocks Koskov over the head and tells the English servicemen with them to assist him or die. Necros changes his outfit from milkman to medic and gets Koskov to the chopper. They take off and escape the chaos below. And the whole time, Koskov is all, no, stop, do take me, oh no.
You know what kind of made me mad is the other English dude that he was holding hostage with a pistol. This dude is surrounded by British 00 agents, and he doesn't say anything. Not a fucking word.
There's no double O's in there.
Well, there's at least 40 British agents. All he had to do is shout, grab his gun arm. He would have been all right.
One of my own personal opinions is that it takes a great actor to play a character acting badly, convincingly. Krabe has the chops.
Yes, I like him.
We then cut to M's office. M is outraged that Koskov was swiped, and the minister is proper embarrassed. It was their biggest get in years, and now they're the laughingstock of the intelligence community. The minister excuses himself for a meeting with the PM, and M orders Bond to Tangier to execute Pushkin. Bond doesn't believe the BS and defends Pushkin. M thinks it's fishy too, but the tag that was clipped on 004's line in the opening was found. M hands it to Bond, who reveals it to say, smeared spionum. But it's misspelled with 2 O's in spionum instead of an A. Brilliant. M tells Bond that his name is on Pushkin's list too. Bond says he wants to check out some other stuff too, like the sniper. M threatens to bench Bond and call in 008, and nope, I'm cool, leave me out of it. Sorry, I'm checking out the case of all that missing weed in California that I stole. You leave 008 out of everything, bro. I'm cool.
There's something to be said about having a high 00 number. It's like being the backup quarterback. You don't really have to do shit and you get all the praise.
That's right. M's bluff works, though, at least superficially, and Bond says that if it has to be done, he'll do it, and takes the folder on Pushkin. We then cut to the Q Lab and an amazing 1985 Aston Martin V8 Mark IV.
Pretty car.
It's an unappreciated generation, in my opinion, of cars.
It is.
Q gives Bond a keychain that dispenses stun gas when someone whistles the opening bars to Royal Britannia. Bond jokingly asks what he has to whistle to blow up the room. God save the Queen? Q says there is a small charge that would explode if Bond wolf whistles, which Bond jokingly threatens to do, but honestly, that's the worst idea ever. Give Bond a keychain grenade that'll go off the first time he ogles a female. This is Bond.
Like, he'll forget. I guarantee.
He's gonna wolf whistle at someone in the street. He literally head turns at every... Okay, no, we're screwed. The keychain is also magnetic, and its key is a skeleton key that opens 90% of the world's locks. Moneypenny then calls Bond over to show him an article on the cellist, one Cara Malovi, played by Miriam Dabo. She'll be back to playing the cello the next day, and Bond tells Moneypenny to alter his travel arrangements to include a layover in Bratislava.
I wonder if Miriam Dabo is related to Olivia Dabo.
Cutting to Bratislava, we see Kara leaving the theater and Bond tailing her through town. They're on a trolley when men stop and board the car, looking for someone. Kara is nervous, and the men take her away, leaving her cello case. She's escorted to a black 1982 Gaz 3102 Volga, out of which pops General Leonid Pushkin, played by John Rhys Davies of Indiana Jones and Lord of the Rings fame.
A young John Rhys Davies. I almost didn't recognize him.
How did you not? Bond watches from the trolley as the KGB make off with the girl and exits the car with her cello case. He goes to the nearest lavatory to inspect the case, and inside finds the same rifle he shot from her hands. Inside that, he finds blanks and does not look amused to have his suspicions confirmed. Also, inside the case, he finds her "if lost, please return to" tag that says Bratislavia instead of Bratislava.
That would make her a horrible assassin.
Why? Because it has her address in the case she's carrying her murder weapon?
Yeah, just that reason. That's all.
Well, at least she tried to throw them off by adding an extra I in Bratislava. We then cut to Kara, somehow free and walking into her apartment, but now the vulva is staking her out, and her apartment has been tossed. Bond walks in with her case and tells her that he dropped the gun in the river. Bond notes the mess that the KGB left. He tells her he saw her play, and that she was exquisite, and that he saw her on the tram and guessed the KGB took her to their headquarters. She says they released her this morning, but he points out that they're still following her. He asks what Pushkin wanted, and she says Koskov. Bond says Koskov was clever using blanks to convince the British of the defection. She asks how he knows that, and Bond says Koskov told him, and that Koskov is safe.
He started this whole relationship with a lie.
Bro, it's not even a relationship. He's straight con man and she's a fucking mark.
Yes, 100%.
Kara is in love with Koskov and happy to assume Bond is his friend. Kara is crying with relief to believe Koskov is sending for her as promised, instead of being left for the rube she is.
Lucky to be alive.
And now she's a loose end, as Bond correctly assumes. He was supposed to kill her.
Right?
Hey, any lesser agent, even a 00, might have just taken the headshot and went home.
You right?
I know I would have. Bond says they have to meet up with Koskov, but they move him around, and they'll try to catch him in Vienna. Bond then goes to his car, shortly after followed by Kara in hat and coat going to a call box. The KGB agent watching them, played by Alan Talbot, has his vision obscured by another tram. For exactly 5 seconds, I timed it.
Whoa, did you?
Bond then drives off, as we still see her in the booth. We then cut to Bond, driving off with Kara, pulling a David Copperfield meets Police Academy, and popping up in the passenger seat. She freaks out about her cello at the Conservatoire, and he says no fucking way. And she says she must have it, and he says hard no, lady.
Hard no.
We need the time to get away. So cut to Bond waiting on her to get her big-ass cello in the back of his Aston. Why didn't you learn to play the violin?
Yeah.
He says, peeling out.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed that the cello fit in the back of an Aston, just saying.
These are Timothy's one-liners. Why didn't you learn the violin? Things
Right.
like that. Things that are very applicable to the situation
Right.
and not punny.
No.
They're jokes, but they're not puns.
No, not a straight pun. Way better, more serious one-liners that are integral to the story.
We cut back to the KGB minder opening the call box to find he's been had by the old cello case and hat and coat trick. How the fuck she do that?
In 5 seconds.
Don't get me wrong, 5 seconds is plenty of time to get out of that coat and hat and put them on a case and run to a nearby car to duck. But honestly, it's a stretch. It's plausible, yes, but it's also so tight that people could drill for it and not pull it off. And she has been presented so far as nothing but out of her depth.
Way out of her depth.
Bond picks up the police band and she translates, saying they're looking for a foreign car with a man and woman. And a cello, Bond sours. The Aston is then made by a policeman in a 1977 Lada 1500 who pursues Bond. When they pull alongside him, Bond laser cuts the framework and undercarriage of their vehicle, causing the car to separate and be rendered inoperable. My thing is, how'd you not blow out the tires? He didn't turn it off and on.
Right?
Like the whole thing had to be bifurcated for him to separate it like that, so you can't just do the middle.
Nope.
Yeah, I guess it's the perforated version. I don't know.
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. Okay, fuck off, people. But it's too late. The APB is out and the roadblocks are being set up. Bond brags about his Aston Premium upgrade package and fires missiles at the roadblock to clear a path.
I like how he just plays off how his car is just moderately normal most of the time, right up to the missiles.
He ducks off on a snow path to avoid a tank, which fires at him, barely missing. Bond is chased by cops in Lada 1500s, 1600s, and RLs. There's also Soviet soldiers on a Kosbor Flexmobile, which is a fucking snowcat, the Hawkeye killer. Bond drives into a lake shed and takes the structure with him onto the ice. The Soviets shoot at Bond and Bond breaks out of the shed before it's mortared. Then, his tire is shot out, so he uses it as a blade to cut through the ice in a circle around a patrol car, which then sinks as the ice flips up, showing us that it's feet thick and no way his rim cut that.
I was just going to say, yeah, because that's exactly how that works.
Bond flips another switch and outriggers are deployed along with spikes in his rear tires. He takes off and the chase resumes. The Soviets roadblock what looks to be a dam and Bond deploys a rocket to jump the barricade. If you notice, the rear of the car clips the building in the stunt before they cut away. And this was the second try.
That was the second try.
The day before, they drove straight into the building.
Yes, they did, because they couldn't get up enough speed to get over the building. They actually had to use an air compressor, right?
And the cold constricted the,
Valves.
Yep. After landing, Bond is going down mountain in an uncontrolled manner. The Astons taking the bumps and saplings, and the outriggers getting stripped by near misses with larger trees before the car crashes into a snowbank. And even though it dove into the snow bonnet first, after an insert of the goons skiing up to chase him down, we cut back to Bond and Kara getting out of the car, sunken rear heavy.
Yeah. The editing was not fantastic in this movie. The editing was a little off on stuff like that.
We needed Elaine Shriek on continuity for damn sure.
Oh, yeah.
Bond sets a self-destruct, because of course he does. What a waste.
Another Aston bites the dust.
The goons catching up start firing at them, and the pair take off on foot. The car explodes, and Bond says, "Glad I insisted you brought that cello," as they board the case like a sled. So now Bond and Kara are sledding down a mountain in a cello case while being shot at. The cello even takes a hit for the team.
That was kind of silly. That cello would have exploded.
John Glenn had the cello sled idea. Cubby hated it. Mike Wilson hated it. Dick Maybaum hated it. I bet Dalton protested it, but just like Clown Bond, this made the cut.
Well, he had to actually prove that a person could fit in a cello case and slide down a mountain, didn't he?
That was the only obstacle to getting it in, pretty much, out of all the descent.
Seems like a dumb obstacle.
Mm-hmm. I would have definitely made it a lot harder. Prove you can fit in there while holding a leprechaun who's eating a Snickers and singing the Star Spangled Banner.
That would be a harder sell.
Somehow, they don't just speed off the mountainside and instead slide right through the border to Austria. Bond has her wave his passport as he tosses the cello over the barrier saying, "We've nothing to declare," to which she adds, "Just a cello." I liked that joke.
Yeah?
It doesn't feel forced or even take you out of the scene. It works perfectly, even if it is slight cheese, and I get that. But it's honestly something I would say in that situation myself.
All right.
If I ever found myself sliding through a border, I would just be like, I have nothing to declare. Sorry, I have no control over this fucking cello case right now.
Fair. I guess that's fair. The one liner that I liked is, "I'm glad I insisted you bring the cello." That was a good one.
Was it cheesy? Yes, 100%. But did it feel like something no one would ever say? Not at all. And a lot of the puns that we've heard and a lot of these crappy lines definitely don't feel like something a human being would ever really say.
No, they don't. The context was always off before, which made them stand out way more.
It was more about the pun than actually making it work in the scene.
Correct.
Whereas this time it is definitely the other way around.
Correct.
Cutting to Tangier, Morocco, we see a villa that we'll learn belongs to one Brad Whitaker. In real life, this is Forbes Museum, and though many of the interior scenes were recreated at Pinewood, they still shot a lot inside as well. The real-life museum, founded by billionaire Malcolm Forbes, now houses a collection of 115,000 of his modeled fighting men, reenacting major battles of history, complete with actual lighting and sound effects, as we'll see.
It boggles my mind that wasn't a movie set. That's some billionaire's house.
Technically, it's a museum, but it was a billionaire's house.
Yeah.
And it's also a movie set, but later on when we destroy it.
Right.
As Pushkin gets out of his Volvo outside the villa, he's snapped by a surreptitious security camera across the street. Look, John Glenn pigeons.
Pigeons!
We then establish a catamaran yacht at sea, and then back to Pushkin going inside to find that Madame Tussaud got drunk making figures and watching Mitchell.
Watching Mitchell. Jesus.
Like there's wax dummies everywhere dressed as warmongers throughout history, but they all have Joe Don Baker's face, and one of them is Joe Don Baker auditioning for Mannequin.
Who pretends to be a mannequin? I thought that was the weirdest thing in the world.
To be fair, I know people who act like that. They're so stupid. They think that shit is the most hilarious shit ever, and everyone else is around them just like, stop being fucking stupid.
I'd be like, stop being weird.
And it is people with attitudes and personas like his.
Mm-hmm.
Brash, loud, self-assured, and yet fake.
That being said, though, I love me some Joe Don Baker.
I honestly do too. And he's perfect casting for this character. Because if you don't like this character, this is one of those times where you can love the actor for it because he is playing the character exactly as he's supposed to be.
Yes.
He's not failing. That is the character.
He kind of gave me Colonel Kurtz vibes right in the beginning.
Joe Don Baker plays Brad Whitaker. He's that guy who is way too loud, brash, full of himself. And He's super proud of his Hitler dummy.
Super proud of the Hitler dummy.
Joe Don Baker was the perfect casting for this type of character, as I said before. Pushkin is revolted by the guy. In the next room, the braggadocious pretender shows off the lead soldier collection and the arms he deals to support the hobby. Pushkin says, "Yeah, about that. I'm here to cancel our order and I want our $50 million deposit back." Now, Brad says, "I mean, a deal's a deal. Come on, guy, let's talk," one soldier to another. And Pushkin sighs, "Spare me your military pretensions. What army did you serve in? You were expelled from West Point for cheating and did a stint as a merc in the Congo, then for various criminal organizations to fund your first arms deal." "Oh, those are just lies spread by my competitors," Whitaker assures him. He is the smarmy, used car salesman of arms dealers, and I love it. He's a typical American coming in with no creds, lying through their teeth, and trying to make it big by conning everyone.
He is a typical 80s weapons dealer.
American style.
American, I should say. Out of his depth, doesn't know what he's doing.
Severely does not know what he's doing.
Doesn't know who he's fucking with. And
Nope.
Just a little bit overconfident.
Bro, you're fucking with the Soviet Union, and yeah, they're on their way down, but they're still the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
They disappear people.
all the time. Still.
Pushkin says, "The money in 2 days, or you're dead. You and Koskov. I know y'all are scheming, but it won't work." Cut to Bond and Kara having hitchhiked into Vienna. They take a horse-drawn taxi through the Vienna Summer Palace grounds and get to know each other. Koskov has this girl hooked. He even bought her a cello, and it's a Strat, which could be sold for over $24 million nowadays for perspective.
Yes. Yes, it could be.
They're expensive.
It's a Stradivarius. Yes.
Hers is not real, though. There is no Stradivarius cello named the Lady Rose, but in universe, there's a bullet hole in that Strat, and only Bond seems to flinch at that thought, and only then for a fleeting moment.
I would be totally devastated, personally.
I can't believe she's not screaming and crying or even saying something about that. Oh my god, dude, no way. That's like someone putting a bullet through my most prized possession,
Right?
and me not saying shit.
Right?
Bond and Kara enter their hotel, the Hotel im Palast Schwarzenberg, in the heart of Vienna. Built over 300 years ago as a palace, it was gutted by the Nazis and then turned into a hotel. Bond is greeted at the counter by the concierge played by Heinz Winter, who sees Bond and the lady and asks if Bond needs his usual suite. "Not tonight, Heinz. Something with a second bedroom." But he does send up the vodka martinis.
Yes. Monogamous. Not tonight, Heinz.
I like how Heinz Winter plays a guy called the concierge, and Timothy Dalton is like, "I think it would be better because, you know, you're like, oh, Mr. Bond, I know you. Wouldn't it be better if, like, I've been here enough, like, I knew your name,
Right?
but my character doesn't have a name. Well, what's your name? Heinz. Okay, cool. Not tonight, Heinz." You know that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. He's a regular at this hotel. That's what they were trying to establish. He's regularly here with regular women, regularly.
With the one bedroom usually, though.
Right.
And the vodka martinis.
And the vodka martinis. Yes.
And you know what? Extra martinis to go with the extra room, but put them all in my room.
Right.
Bond gets on the phone and orders 2 tickets for that night's opera. Shameless Cartier plug in the background there.
Shameless Cartier plug.
Bond meets Kara in a lobby shop looking at an outfit. "You like it? For a princess or a commissar's wife? Let's get it. Don't joke, who'll pay?" "Yorgi, of course," Bond says with a giant warm smile.
I wonder how he's gonna swing that.
He's just going to charge him.
Right? Just gonna charge him.
"Why is there a $10,000 receipt for a blue shitty-ass blouse from Cartier?" Cut to Koskov, lounging poolside at Whitaker's villa, surrounded by a harem of women. Necros swims, and Koskov womanizes until they're called to Whitaker. They find him, ripping lobster claws with his hands and being a slob. He even starts talking to them with food in his mouth. He tells them Pushkin wants the money back, and Koskov says, "It's cool, guy. I duped the Brits into killing him for us." But Whitaker is unconvinced and wants Necros to kill Pushkin. Necros balks, as the deed would land him and Russian comrades in hot water.
I don't know why Pretty Boy balked. He doesn't seem to have a problem killing anybody.
Yeah, but Pushkin is a Russian general.
Technically his boss.
I don't think he's Russian. I think he's from a satellite Soviet nation. Because the way he talks, he goes, "The Soviets know my methods, and it would get all of my Soviet comrades in trouble."
Right.
So, like, they know who he is, and they know who he's connected with, and it wouldn't be good for him. But I don't think it's his boss. Whitaker is so overly confident to the point of outrageous lunacy. He's so perfectly brash, American bag chaser. He says the Russians depend on him for weapons, as if they can't produce their own or buy from other countries.
They've been doing that for a while before he came along, so that logic really makes no sense.
Russia deals arms to smaller countries. They aren't desperate for a middleman.
I don't care how new his shit is.
But his attitude works. It's so like a hotshot American paper stacker to think that even when he isn't relevant or holding any cards, that he's essential and irreplaceable. The American ego is on full display, and as cartoonish as it comes off, it is hella accurate.
Yes. Like I said, Joe Don does a great job.
Koskov says the British are just cautious, but they'll push them to act by eliminating another agent. Whitaker says whatever, but if Pushkin is alive the last day of the conference, then kill him. We then cut to the opera, this time Mozart's Le Nozze di Figaro, Act 2. Barbara Broccoli and Mike Wilson cameo as opera goers, and John Barry cameos as the conductor. Mike is 2 seats left of Saunders, who reappears in the film looking sour as ever. He gets Bond's attention from another row. Kara is dressed to the nines in the best bedazzled blue suit the 80s had to offer, and over the moon because apparently she's dreamt her entire life about seeing an opera in the Vienna Palace Theater. Fair enough.
Yeah, a little silly. This girl makes herself look like a fucking rube.
A running thing in this film is that Kara is a dreamer but lacks self-confidence. Bond keeps pedestaling by saying one day she'll play all these different fancy halls, and she retracts into herself.
That is typical groomer fare.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But if he went the other way around, she'd call it nagging.
Yes.
She excuses herself at intermission, and Saunders approaches Bond. Why is the KGB sniper here? She's not a KGB sniper. She's Koskov's con job. He brings Saunders up to speed and sends him to find out how Koskov could buy a strat, and also to forge Kara a passport. Saunders begrudgingly agrees and says to meet up with him at the Prater Cafe near the Ferris wheel at midnight. 'Cause fuck it. He's got nothing to lose but his pension. These are the type of lines in this movie. I like it.
Yeah. I don't like Saunders. I mean, I guess he comes around in the end, but he's still kind of a tool.
Cut to Prater Park, John Glenn's old third man stomping grounds. They even shoot on the same Ferris wheel. Bernard Lee and Robert Brown were also in the third man, by the way, both M's, as was Jeffrey Keane and Eric Pullman. Plus, Orson Welles played Le Chiffre in the parody, so that's a lot of Bond third man connection.
Right? It seems like a small incestuous circle.
Yes. Bond and Kara ride carnival rides and play games before she asks him to take her on the wheel, leaving Saunders waiting below. As the two ride, Saunders is approached by Necros with balloons, but Saunders just blows him off and walks into the cafe. Cutting back to Bond, and the Ferris wheel stopped at the top. Bond says he arranged it, and they could be there all night, as he swoops in for the kiss. She says it's impossible. I've known you for 2 days, and I can't think how we'd be together. Don't think. Just let it happen. My mans!
Oh, classic Bond. Just let it happen.
There it is.
I'm not gonna rape you per se.
But, you are going to let it happen.
Oh. And am I the only one who found it kind of incongruous that they were at the carnival in a tux and an evening gown?
Well, they just left from the opera.
Yeah, seems I would have changed.
Sorry. Too much class for your ass.
I guess.
They have a tender moment on the nasty-ass floor of the Ferris wheel, and we cut back to Necros stalking Saunders. Then back to Bond and Kara exiting the ride. Bond leaves her at a shop to meet Saunders at the cafe, and when Bond enters, we see Necros arming the rig that he put onto the auto door opener.
At some point, because they really never show him ever approach that area.
It was when Bond was fucking her on top of the Ferris wheel for 5 minutes.
It had to have been.
Inside, Saunders tells Bond that it was a 1754 Stradivarius sold at auction for $150,000 to Brad Whitaker.
The arms dealer? Just kidding.
The final pieces come together for Bond, and not just because it's time for him to know the whole plan, because it's been properly set up and discovered along the way. Bond gets Kara's passport and gives Saunders some due respect and thanks, which is returned with a nod. And this is actual character development, even with side characters. Wow, did hell freeze over?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Is it a different writer on this one?
No, it's Dick Maybaum and Mike G. Wilson, bro.
Well,
The guys who wrote the last 3 films.
apparently they're learning.
But it also seals his fate, and Necros triggers his device when Saunders is exiting, causing the door to crush him at speed. And listen, I know that force is mass times velocity squared, and the important bit there is the velocity squared. But that's an aluminum frame door with non-tempered single pane glass, and it wasn't going that fast.
And it's a safety door. I literally have had those clothes on me that don't hurt.
But Saunders is dead, and Bond laments over his body when a balloon bounces over the shards of glass right to Bond. He picks it up and reads Smear Spionum with the same misspelling on its face and pops it in a rage. Looking up, he sees balloons on the other side of some shrubs, and he leaps into action. He shoves Kara aside, jumps a fence, and lands brandishing his firearm on a small child and his mother.
Nope.
Kara asks what's going on, and he says there was a bad accident. She asks if he heard from Yorgi, and Bond bitterly says, "Yeah, I got the message." With the reddest eyes and grinding his teeth, Dalton is intense.
Super intense. That's well acted. He was pissed. He got the message, loud and clear.
Bond steels himself and tells Kara that Koskov is with Whitaker in Tangier. Kara thinks Brad Whitaker is an American arts patron that was to help her. This girl was the perfect mark for Koskov because she is such a sheep. She got these big doe eyes, she's got no brain, and she's got a will to follow. Bond says they leave first thing in the morning, and we then cut to Morocco. Bond stakes out the conference in a 1986 Audi 200 Avant, and then tails Pushkin when he leaves. Followed to the Hotel Ile-de-France, Bond continues to spy on Pushkin from afar. Pushkin kisses his girl goodbye and departs the hotel for a while. Cutting to later that night, Pushkin returns to the hotel with flowers and treats. He walks into his room to find his girlfriend, Rubavitch, not Rubelvich, played by Virginia Hay, covered up in a violated way. Pushkin asks what's wrong, and Bond emerges from behind the door, drawn on Pushkin with a silenced Walther.
Do you think Bond seduced her first? Because when he first saw her, he had quite the smile on his face.
No. If it was any Bond besides him or Craig, then I would say yes, Bond seduced her. Was it Connery? You know he did. If it was Moore, you know he did. Was it Brosnan? You know he did. Was it Lazenby? Yeah, and her 10 sisters. Bond is a womanizer. That doesn't mean he sleeps with every woman he sees and or meets or interacts with.
Have you been watching these movies?
In fact, that's a big part of his personality, constantly with Moneypenny, for example. And yes, I have been watching these movies. And yes, they have gotten exaggerated and crazy in all aspects as we've gone along, but that's not how it started out.
No.
That's not how it is in the books.
No.
And that's not what his character overall really means. It's just kind of the parody he's become. And sadly, how people have come to expect him because of the fact that, in terms of number of movies, that guy has the longest run of the franchise to this day.
To this day.
I like Daniel Craig's performance of womanizing. Does he sleep with a lot of women? Sure.
I think Craig's era did it the best, actually, because I didn't really get the womanizing aspect from him.
He didn't want to sleep with every woman that came his way. He wanted to sleep with you if it got him something.
Right.
And it was so much better for me. Because Roger Moore is just like, oh, sweet, you're a girl. Well, let me go lay on your bed naked. You know what comes next. I'm Roger Moore. Bond throws Pushkin on the bed and rips his flowers away. Pushkin says, I take it this is not a social call. Bond says, nope, and you should have bought lilies. Which I honestly thought was fucking genius. Now, let me explain this to you Americans, because I know here in America that lilies are used for sympathies, but over the rest of the world, the lily flower represents purity, innocence, and rebirth. So Pushkin should immediately know what's up, and it's really good foreshadowing for the film.
It's not bad at all. Pretty good, actually.
Bond asks him about smeared spionum, and Pushkin sounds confused. The operation ran under Beria during Stalin's time. It was deactivated 2 decades ago. Bond says 2 of his agents are dead.
Yeah, only 100 got shot on Gibraltar. And Saunders, who's, I guess, not quite a 00, but Bond knew him.
But he said agents, and Saunders may not have been a 00, but he is an agent.
Correct.
How many agents were killed technically in the safe house?
Right?
And you could say, oh, but it was like mostly like the cook and the butler. The butler was very obviously still a trained agent.
Obviously. I would assume everybody at that household was a trained agent.
Pushkin says he had nothing to do with it. Pushkin reveals that he was to have Koskov arrested for misusing state funds and scheming with Whitaker, and then he disappeared. Pushkin then hits his watch alarm, alerting the guard outside the door. Bond seethes. That was dumb stupid, and gut checks Pushkin with his gun. He then grabs Rubovich and rips off her robe before hiding behind the door to take out the shocked guard when he enters and sees the nude woman.
Oh, the old classic titties in your face trick. Gets him every time.
It works every time. Yeah, I was about to say. With the guard knocked out, he sends the girl to the bathroom and tells Pushkin to get on his knees. Pushkin says this is bullshit, and Bond says as long as Pushkin's alive, they'll never know what Koskov is up to. And Pushkin says then he must die. But really though? There's no other way? No plan B for once?
No plan B for once. I find that hard to believe. Like, you guys couldn't, brainstorm.
The only way you can find out what this guy is doing is to kill this guy. You can't tail him, bug him.
Right? You couldn't put in another double agent undercover, buy some weapons from him. He's an arms dealer.
Sneak a girl into his harem like he'd notice.
Right?
No, okay, you're right. This is the only way. We have to kill you.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. It's the only way. No other way. I'm the man of plan B, but nope, not today. At the last day of the conference, Pushkin takes the podium, and just as Necros goes to shoot him, he's shot multiple times in the torso by Bond, who then whips over and shoots the light out that Necros puts on him in a wicked shot. No pun intended. This could have been his gun barrel swing.
It should have been his gun barrel swing.
Bond makes a break for it. Rubovich cries over Pushkin's body, and our next chase gets underway. Bond hits the rooftops with police in pursuit, and holy shit, the Moroccan police just fire SMGs wantonly into their city while trying to apprehend someone. That's fucking insane.
Bullets everywhere. Clear the streets. The cops are coming.
For real. Bond makes his way across the rooftops and their obstacles. The music is smooth and exciting. There was a magic carpet scene cut from the film here, where Bond throws a rug over power lines and rides them down. They convinced Glenn that it ran the scene too long. And thank God.
Man.
Because it's a nice, tight, believable chase. But that deleted footage of the carpet ride still exists.
And let me tell you something, too. I'm glad they cut that scene because, I guess they cut it for time constraints. But I'd really like to think that somebody was like, how does that even fucking work?
They convinced him to cut it for time constraints. That's basically, they thought it was stupid.
Yes. They, like everybody else who ever saw that scene, was like, no, please no.
Finally, John Glenn didn't win one.
Yay.
Cutting back to the crowd wheeling Pushkin's body away, Rubovich is still hysterical. They move the body into another room and shut the doors, but not before Necros sees for himself that the man is dead. Then, inside the room, Pushkin opens his eyes and pops up like, gotcha, bitch.
It was a fake the whole time.
Back to Bond, who walks past Ava and Liz, played by Dulce Lacey and Catherine Rebet, respectively. They make Bond and hop into their red 1959 Chevrolet Impala. He's in a tight spot, and they pull up asking if he wants to party. And Bond smiles, getting in their car, saying it seems like a good idea, and they drive off.
I don't understand why this man is not more suspicious of women. Every time he's been booby-trapped or got, It's by women. And it's because he just hops in a car with strange women.
To be fair, it was either them or the Russian army, Moroccan army.
Okay, in this one instance, I might cut him a little bit of slack. In this one instance, I might cut him a little bit of slack. But as a trained professional 00 agent, I would have felt better on my own. Just saying.
Cutting back to Pushkin, we see that Pushkin had blood packs over Kevlar body armor. He laughs that it's the first time he's grateful James Bond is a good shot. Cutting back again to Bond, he tells the girls to let him out here, and they'll party another time. He starts to give them money for the trouble from his wallet, when Ava puts a gun to his head. She takes his gun and tells him to enjoy the ride. Let it happen, bitch.
Right? Let it happen.
They take him to the catamaran yacht we saw watching Whitaker's place, and surprise, it's Felix, and surprise, it's a new actor.
It's not a new actor, it's Felix the Chameleon. It's the same person. He just looks different now. That's what makes him a super secret CIA agent.
In the real world, John Terry plays Felix this time, and he's flustered with 007's assassination of a Russian general at a trade convention in front of the entire world. But Bond lets him in on the put-up job and asks what Felix is even doing there in the first place. And the long end of it is they've been working the same case from opposite ends. Like always.
Did you recognize Felix? Do you know what he's been in?
Lost. He is Jack's father.
Yeah. And he played Private Joker's lieutenant in a Full Metal Jacket, the head editor at Stars and Stripes. That's where I recognized him from.
Cut back to Whitaker when Necro says Bond killed Pushkin and Koskov celebrates being correct in his powers of persuasion. While he's gloating, though, he receives a phone call that grounds his elation. We then cut to Bond returning to the hotel and Kara serving shaken vodka martinis. Bond comes clean. He tells her everything, but she calls him a liar. She called Whitaker, and Yorgi said Bond was a KGB agent using her to kill him. Bond gets woozy, and we realize that she drugged his drink. He then proves his story by sharing something only he and she could know, and that's her arm was wounded when a rifle was shot out of her hands.
Did he not know the drinks were poisoned when he walked in the door? Because I did.
I am amazed she had the foresight to do that, but she didn't. She was told to. So, boom.
She was told to. Right. Boom.
Necros and Koskov enter after Bond has lost consciousness and take Bond on a stretcher. We then cut to a 1980 GMC Vandura turned ambulance pulling onto an airport tarmac. The ambulance enters the tail of a Lockheed Hercules, but only after going through checkpoint procedures. Necros, an orderly, Koskov a doctor, and Kara a nurse with a drugged Bond patient. They even have a forged passport for him as Yerzy Bondov.
Yerzy Bondov.
Unless you're American, then it's Jersey Bondov.
Right? I had to look at that like 3 times to make sure I read that right. I was like, Jersey Bondov?
What?
You're right? That's what I said. What?
The customs official has them open an organ transplant box. And is that legal?
No, absolutely not.
Gonna contaminate that.
Yes, totally contaminated. You cannot open up a live organ transplant box. It's even sealed with a piece of tape if you've ever seen one. Because if you open it, they can't use it.
Yeah. Inside, there's fake diamonds, ice, and a heart somehow just chilling on a petri dish and pumping nothing after being hooked up to a car battery. We then cut to an establishing exterior shot of the plane flying over some water, and then inside to Bond handcuffed to his chair and feigning further unconsciousness. He starts reaching for the cooler, and Kara helps him open it, saying she's been such a fool. Duh, that's your biggest character trait.
It's your only character trait. She's like just there to develop his story. She serves no other fucking purpose in this story.
I disagree. It's one of the few times that a character who does nothing is actually very consequential to the plot. Really, it's about the way they both manipulate and use her to get at each other and how that actually does influence her in the long run.
Right.
Does she do a lot? No.
No. That's what I'm saying. She doesn't do a lot herself.
But is she consequential to the plot? Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Bond says the heart is an animal heart and the ice is diamonds. Why don't they just throw Bond out right now? I mean, they're flying low enough.
I thought the same thing. It's like, what? Wait, you got him drugged. He's a problem. Why don't you kill him?
Yes, we ask this every time. But Bond even asks the same thing, and Yorgi has an answer. He got Bond to kill Pushkin for him, and now he's turning him in for the crime. Duh, the trigger man is always a fall guy.
And you know what? I liked Yorgi's answer. I was okay with it. I was like, okay, well, I suppose that's a legitimate enough reason.
To be fair, that's usually what they do at the Triggerman.
You want to get back in the good graces with the Russian after you defected? The best way to do that is to turn in the guy who killed Pushkin.
They land in Morocco. I mean Afghanistan. They say it's Afghanistan, but it looks like exactly where they just left from, which is odd.
It is kind of odd.
I always thought Afghanistan was very mountainous.
It is super mountainous.
It looks pretty flat right here.
Yeah, well, it is not Afghanistan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. The party is met by Colonel Feodor, played by John Bowie. Koskov hands over Bond and Kara as prisoners because, again, duh, loose end the Bond girl. What did you honestly expect?
Right. She thought she was going with all of a sudden again?
Koskov tells her he'll put in a good word to have her transferred to the Siberian Philharmonic. Cold. Literally, bruv.
Literally cold. And called them bourgeois. That's
Insulted them on top of everything.
Right?
Koskov tells Feodor he needs men and trucks for a secret state mission. And we cut to the brig and its jailer, played by Ken Shamrock. No, I did not say Ken Shamrock. That would be way too badass. He is a right dick, though. The jailer tells the prisoner that he'll be shot, just to rub it in. The jailer hits Bond with a baton for anything. He hits him for falling down, for getting up. They take Bond's keys, and Bond whistles Royal Britannia, gassing them. With the jailer stunned, he fights them handcuffed, and Kara even hits one with a bucket. The other prisoner saves Bond from the baton, and Bond lets him out of his cell when the fight is over. And Kara celebrates their freedom. Bond reminds her that they're on a Russian airbase in the middle of Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's pretty far from free. I think Kara's smartest moment was in this one fight scene when she actually took the helmet off before she hit the dude with the bucket.
Smartest moment so far.
So far. I honestly thought she was going to just put the bucket over his head because
we're used to Roger Moore.
Right, because we're used to Roger Moore, but that didn't happen, so I felt good.
She says at least they're together, and outside they hide from soldiers and a Renault VAB 6x6 as they don Soviet uniforms and spy Koskov and Necros transporting the diamonds. The heroes then commandeer a Trackma 1500. Are you confused by that vehicle name? It's the fucking stair truck they have at airports. They boosted a stair truck. It was smart, though.
Smart.
As they pull it up to the base fence and use it to climb over.
Yeah.
As soon as they start running off, though, desert ninjas pop up from nowhere and hold blades to their throats.
Because, of course, it's desert ninjas.
I just like how they're like 2 feet from the gate and right where they pop out at.
Waiting there for them.
Whole perimeter, right where you choose to come out at is right there.
Dude, how many people are buried around that fence?
Honestly, like 500, but they only kind of pop up a little bit at a time.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like if the odds are there's a group right where you pop out, how many people are buried around that fence?
The prisoner that escaped with them drops down and tells the group that the 2 white people aren't Russians and not to kill them now. Now, what about later? Don't worry, they'll save you for the harem. I think that was racist.
And sexist.
Bond rides with the men on horseback through war-torn Afghanistan, the scars of Soviet losses visible along the way.
Oh man, 1980s Afghanistan, so different than right now.
Bond says it's the Mujahideen, a rebel group championed by the West in the 80s that gave rise to the Taliban later on. But we'll gloss over that, Rambo 3 style.
Oh, Lord.
Glossing. All of this was shot in Ouarzazate, Morocco. They lead him to a compound and send the 2 into a room where they find the prisoner they helped. Except he's all dripped up and apparently runs this outfit. This is Cameron Shaw, played by Art Malik. They send Kara to freshen up, and Bond asks for help getting back onto the base. And everyone laughs at him.
Right, because everyone here speaks English.
Of course.
Of course.
You don't?
Well, I guess.
Got him.
I mean, Cameron definitely speaks English because he's got an English accent.
Well, he went to Oxford.
Oh, yeah, that explains it.
Bond bluffs Shaw that Koskov is trying to get weapons to fight his men. Shaw is moved to urgency, but not immediate action, and sends Bond back to his room with Kara. He tells her what's up and wants to send her to London. She calls him a horse's ass, and they get it on.
Let's get it on.
We then cut to an epic shot of men riding through the desert, and we then cut again to Bond to see that he did not send Kara away, and she is with them. The caravan stops for a moment, and Bond inspects the Red Cross packages that the camels are carrying. And there's raw opium inside, and he automatically knows how much weight and value is on the table. By metric of New York streets, of course.
Because Bond deals opium. You didn't figure that out?
You didn't know that? Why do you think he keeps blowing up people's opium farms in the Caribbean?
Right?
Bond confronts Shaw, who says they're selling opium to buy arms to fight them. And he doesn't care if it's the drugs or bullets that killed him. Because Shaw is dumb. That's just not how that works. It's like the Russians are going to do the drugs instead of selling them.
Oh, yeah. That's a dumb premise. You're right.
Bond convinces him to help with more embellishments of Koskov's plan. And Shaw agrees to help if it's after the Russians pay and leave the Afghan drug dealers.
Which is a fair cop for drug dealers. It's like, yeah, I'll take my drugs back, but you got to let them pay first.
Koskov needs the diamonds to buy the drugs to flip for a private fortune. Bond asks Shaw for plastique and a timer, and they all load the opium onto a Renault TRM. Bond boards while loading and stows away. Kara begs Shaw to help, and he says, "There's nothing more I can do." She grabs his AK and rides off after the Russians, and Shaw looks at his men, sighs, women, and rides off after them.
I'd have probably just let him go. Got my diamonds.
I would have been like, all right, y'all have fun.
That's really none of my business.
Thanks for letting me out of jail.
Thanks for letting me out of jail. But I guess Shaw's a good guy, so.
Back in the truck, Bond removes some oat from a sack and stuffs in Shaw's bomb. They arrive back at the base and start loading the bundles onto the Lockheed when Bond just pops up from the back and acts like nothing happened, passing bags up.
Those two dudes didn't say anything. Like, I'd have been scared as fuck. Like, whoa, where the fuck did you come from?
To be fair, those guys at the base, how do they not know someone rode along? A worker didn't ride along, you know? And to be fair, I get why they didn't question it. It's not in their pay grade to question it. Do you get paid enough to question it?
I still would have been startled.
They were. They both looked at him like, what?
I still would have said, like, whoa, out loud, like, yo.
Yeah, well, they got stronger nerves than you.
Yeah, apparently.
We then see the Mujahideen infiltrate the base with Kara. Bond takes the bomb bag to the plane and sets the timer for 10.5 minutes before Koskov and Necros make him. Bond takes the AK from the soldier next to him and fires wildly over everyone's heads, causing everyone to scramble. Just when he runs out of ammo, a bulldozer takes out the perimeter fence, and Mujahideen swarm in, shooting up Russians and tossing IEDs. Shaw bulldozes a building.
Dun, 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 dun.
With the fighting raging, Bond starts up the Lockheed and gets it rolling. Kara is attacked and reflexively fights back. Again, real growth, done in stages and earned. Also, a lot of these extras are actual military with their actual weapons.
Yeah, what the hell?
Fyodor meets his demise when he tries to escape the battle in a fuel truck that's nated. Kara steals a rover and chases the plane with a soldier jumping on her bonnet. She punches him, wipers him, and punches him again. Koskov and Necros chase her in a Humvee, firing 50 cal rounds that do nothing to her vehicle.
Not a thing, even though they are anti-material rounds.
Bond lowers the tail and she enters the back of the plane, but Necros has jumped aboard. An Aero Commander 500 lands in front of them and Bond barely avoids another Tenerife, pulling up just in time. But the landing craft strikes Koskov's vehicle instead, which he inexplicably survives.
Yeah, like, how did that happen?
For real. Like, look at this fireball, and now look at this man with just a little bit of dirt on him.
But there was only a wing in the roof of his truck.
That was stupid. The plane now in the air, Bond goes to defuse the bomb when he's attacked by Necros. The plane has suddenly turned into a Fairchild C-123 provider, with the same paint job, by the way. Safer tail section for the stuntmen and their sequence coming up. but totally different plane.
Totally different plane. That's why I almost called it a C-130. I was like, no, that was a Hercules when it took off.
But Kara accidentally opens the tail, and the men tumble out of the back, hanging onto the cargo net full of drugs for their dear lives. The clock is still ticking on the bomb, and Kara is still barely holding the plane level. The men climb and fight on the net until Bond cuts the net and bags start flying. They smack Necros in the face, and Bond kicks him. The net whips wildly now, and the two desperately cling. The bomb has 50 seconds left, and Bond cuts away his boot that Necros is grasping, causing the henchman to fall to his death, gripping a shoe.
So I'm thinking to myself, there's about 100 lucky farmers somewhere in Afghanistan and one real unlucky one.
The net is whipping ferociously, and Bond struggles to climb back aboard. B.J. Worth and Jake Lombard filmed the sequence getting whipped by 120-mile-an-hour winds and no harnesses, which was only made worse when the net released the packages. The packages hit the men and took the weight stabilization with them. The net whipped around and threatened to smash the men's heads and bodies into the tail of the plane, over and over, especially B.J. Worth for the climb-in segment.
I like how the stuntmen didn't even think about any of that stuff before they tried the stunt.
They were just like, yeah, we'll grab onto this net from a plane you're flying.
Right? It's like they didn't think about any of that stuff.
And the way they talk about it in the interview, it's like they really didn't. Because it was like they were completely surprised any of that shit happened.
Yeah, they were completely caught off guard by any of that. It's like, oh man, and then all of a sudden 150-mile-an-hour winds. Like, dude, you're being towed behind a plane.
For real.
For reals. Like, what were you expecting?
Did you think you were going to get the soundstage shoot? No. That's for close-ups.
It's just like that interview blew my mind.
Bond lands inside and closes the door. He takes half a second to catch his breath when he hears beeping and ticking. Oh yeah, oh shit. But which bag is it? They got scrambled in the scuffle. He finds the bomb with 4 seconds left and shuts it off at 2. That's close. James enters the cockpit, and they ADR in her asking what happened, and James saying he got the boot, even though he clearly didn't say anything and just dove for the stick as they were about to collide with terrain.
Like, why are they still using ADR?
Dalton played it on set sensibly,
Yeah,
and they still added in a bad pun.
yes, they did. Come back, we need you to read this line.
The pair spot the Russians harassing the Mujahideen when their forces are bottlenecked on a bridge. So Bond rearms and drops the bomb onto the Russians. And hey, miniature bridge explosion.
No, it was a pretty big explosion. No, I'm just kidding.
Everybody cheers. We just destroyed Afghan infrastructure. Yay. In all the kerfluffle, Bond's tanks were shot. And instead of blowing up like everyone else's in movies, he just has a flame out. Make that too. It being Afghanistan, there's nowhere to land because mountains. So Bond goes to the back with Kara and gets in the Jeep after lowering the door again, and they release a drogue chute that pulls the Jeep out the back. And this was done in miniature, but in scale, that would have fucked their backs up. Also, where'd the endless mountains go? It's flat as fuck where they landed. Why couldn't they just, I don't know, land?
Right? Because it looked like they were on a runway.
I mean, it was at least flat enough for an emergency landing.
You're right.
Way better an idea of what y'all did.
Way safer, seemed like, too.
The rover comes to a stop, and the plane crashes into a mountain that looks nothing like Afghan mountains. Looked like a mesa.
It looked like Arizona is what it looked like. I thought it looked like a Star Trek location. Could have been California, but I could be wrong.
It's because they shot a lot of this aerial stunt work in the Mojave.
So it could have very well been a Star Trek location.
Bond and Kara drive off, and we cut to Whitaker's villa at night. We establish Felix is on surveillance and guiding Bond, who's infiltrating. John Glenn pigeon scare. Bond knocks out a sentry and enters the main building to confront Whitaker, who's playing with his toys. Whitaker is, again, a perfect immature American with delusions of grandeur, and his stolen valor really helps cement his unlikability. But all he is a loser. Another American trying to fake it till he makes it. He acts big, but is really nothing but a facilitator for Koskov.
He seems so inept, but capable.
Bond tells Whitaker he burned up the opium, and Whitaker hits a switch, causing his auto cabinet doors to open. knocking Bond over and giving Whitaker a gun that he fires at Bond.
What the hell kind of springs does he have in those drawers?
Very high tension.
Very high tension.
Compressed air.
Right?
Bond fires back, but Whitaker uses a rifle with a shield to block bullets, because Bond won't stop aiming for the shield.
We've already proven in this movie twice that this dude is a perfect marksman. Why didn't he not shoot him in the leg?
Stop aiming for the head.
Right?
Hit him in the gut. He got a big-ass gut. That's Joe Don Baker.
Shoot him all over the rest of his body.
Just not the head.
Just let's aim for the shield.
Right? You're doing it on purpose, James. You just like the challenge, don't you?
Yeah.
All right, you've had your 8. Now have my 80. Whitaker gives his twist on the line. Whitaker fires cannons and shoots everything up. Bond puts his key fob on a statue of Wellington and then wolf whistles, causing the charge to detonate and the statue to fly onto Whitaker, crushing the man. A soldier busts in but is gunned down by Pushkin and his entering troops.
Did you notice that the battlefield that Whitaker landed on was Waterloo?
No!
Yeah.
Was it?
Yep.
Of course it was, because it was right under Wellington.
Right, so Wellington smashed him onto Waterloo.
Wellington smashed him at Waterloo. I told you the Napoleon complex was real with this guy.
Yes, totally, 100%. That reference is right there in the movie. It's like right there.
That made that brilliant, and I didn't even notice.
Yeah, it's on the little gold plaque of the thing, Waterloo.
This movie is so much smarter than we've had in a Bond film since Connery was in.
Yeah. It is one of the smartest Bond films since the early days.
They made them for intelligent people. They were more like, instead of like stupid puns, it was more like, oh, current events of like theft and high crime and shit like that.
Yeah, well, the first movies were for fans. The movies got popular, and then they made movies for the
masses.
Right? This was the pendulum swinging back because the masses
Abandoned it.
Right.
Even the masses thought Roger Moore was a clown.
That's because he dressed up like one.
Pushkin's troops bring Koskov down, and Koskov is just, oh, so relieved Pushkin is alive. Whitaker has been keeping me here against my will. Pushkin says to put Koskov on the next plane to Moscow, in a diplomatic bag, as Koskov is carted away by soldiers with suppressed weapons. We then cut to Kara performing Tchaikovsky's Rococo variations before a rapturous audience including M and a retired General Gogol. Yes, her Strat still has a bullet hole, and yes, John Barry is the conductor. Shaw arrives but fashionably late, and James is supposedly on assignment abroad and missed the show. So Kara excuses herself saddened when this is brought up.
Who plays a Strat with a fucking bullet hole in it? It's not even going to sound right.
I was about to say, how does it sound right?
It doesn't. It can't. It has a hole in it. And secondly, I didn't know the conductor was John Barry, but I did notice that the conductor was hella animated into the role, so that makes sense.
This is my first time to be on this side of the film. I'm going for it, baby.
Oh, man. I did notice the conductor.
Kara goes to the first dressing room, the one with the star, and inside we see a poster for her world tour. So this is her show. She sees martinis and whistles, setting off Bond's key finder, and she smiles. He didn't miss her show, and they get it on. Fade to credits, scrolling over the exterior of the hall and its fountain.
I like the fact that she didn't wolf whistle and blow his fucking hand off.
Thank God. She accidentally did, and then it was just this minor explosion, and like half of his body falls over.
Right.
I'm giving this film a B-. I loved the film. I loved it. I truly did. I didn't even remember liking this one as much as the next one, but under the microscope, I loved every minute of it. The seriousness was a breath of fresh air, and I ate up Dalton's performance. I don't believe he was too stiff. I just think after 12 years or more, it felt that way, especially because the movie itself can't decide if it wants to play to Dalton's tone or just play like every other Bond film. And that's because they wrote it like they wrote the last 3 Moore films, but with less jokes because they knew Moore wouldn't return. And then at the very end, because of all the delays and recastings, added a little Dalton spice. But Dalton is not the problem with the tone. It's the writing. And it didn't help that the plot was beyond underwhelming.
I am going to give this movie a B- because I agree with everything you said, 100%. It was not Timothy Dalton's fault. I enjoyed this movie way more than I remember enjoying it. And it was the movie 100%. It was the writing and the plot and the pacing and the editing, not the acting in this movie. None of the actors are to blame except for maybe Daba.
Which I think we have gone out of our way to point out very well and to improve very well.
But it is nowhere near as bad as the bad stuff.
No. Oh, God, no. Yeah, my bar is very low right now.
Yeah.
For the kill count, how many do you think Bond kills?
I lost count, but I'm gonna say somewhere around 5.
13.
13? What? How?
29 are killed by others for a total of 42. And after Roger and how bloodless Bond himself was getting, they had decided to amp the intensity up a little bit. For the pre-title. The pre-title is a fun spectacle and introduction to our new Bond and tone. There's no skiing, but there is skydiving, and they ski later. All jokes aside, this was a great solid opening that had Bond hit all of his numbers in one go, even to the tune of ruining their monogamy bit. Second place.
Very high rating for you. I gave this pre-title a 5th place. Personally, a little underwhelmed. It was better than a lot of them, but not as good as the good ones, you know?
The title sequence. The title sequence was again on point. Nay, better this time. As I said in the beginning, it's that master stroke of aligning all past experiments and skill sets. It fits the movie perfectly. It's not lazy at all. It ties with the lyrics and the cues of the song. The song's all right, too. Third place.
All right. I see you, player. I gave it 5th place because my 3rd place is Diamonds Are Forever, and nothing's gonna beat that, unless it's gonna beat it. And the song didn't quite beat that.
I'm ranking the title sequence itself. We will come back after the show is over and rank song.
I understand, but the song is a big part of the title sequence.
That's fair. That's true, and I can't take that from you.
Right? The song is a big part of the title. The song is what gets you engaged in the title sequence.
Moneypenny pickup line. While there's no cheesy old school pickup line a la Connery, there's some of, if not the most, genuine and human cutesy flirtatious interaction I've ever seen in the series. It's all giggles, smiles, and body language, but that's what makes it feel real and not like a pun. Third place.
Very nice. I gave this a 7th place because I thought it was great. It was a nice, very straightforward, very natural feeling flirt. It was good. There have been better. So, 7th place.
Q gadgets. Q has supercomputers, ghetto blasters, key fobs with whistle finders and super skeleton keys, and stun gas, and plastique. And there's an Aston fully loaded. The key fob is great, realistic, useful. The Aston is loaded. 4th place.
Well, I guess we're going to agree on something because I also gave this 4th place. Q gadgets were on point this time. Q was on point. The gadgets were on point.
Cars. The 1985 Aston Martin V8 Mark IV, kitted and fitted. This car is amazing and often forgotten with the 80s gen of vehicles. It's sleek and beautiful, but sharper than the Astons of the 60s and feels right in its era. It had more gadgets than ever, but is blown up. 6th place.
Oh, 6th place? This was like the best Aston since the Aston. Since the DB7. I gave this 2nd place, man. This is like the next best spy car so far. He's used it. It's got all the buttons and gadgets. They were clearly labeled this time. I noticed that. Yeah, I love the car. That's 2nd place.
Main ally, Saunders. He's standoffish to Bond to the point of adversarial, and then works with him begrudgingly to finally earn mutual respect. And I'm not lying, and I'm sorry if it hurts when I say that sadly, he has the most developed character arc that any character has had in this series so far outside of Bernard Lee's M. And don't give me that Dominic Duval crap, because she went from victim to cornered victim that pulled a trigger with no path. Best, most complete arc in the series so far outside of Bernard Lee's M. Semi-competent agent that gets shit done And I'm actually giving him second place.
Wow.
You hate him, so I knew that was going to fuck with you. Did I hate Saunders when he first showed up? Yeah. Did I love it when he got his shit given to him for the next couple interactions with Bond? Oh, yeah. But still, did it mean something more to me by the end of the journey like it did for Bond? 100%. And did I get the point? And it goes back to that, what they say. If you hate a character that you're supposed to hate, maybe you should respect the actor.
We're going to give Mr. Saunders 8th place because he ranks a little higher than all the other LS in the movie. He's no Felix, which I was going to give 11th place.
This Felix did nothing.
He didn't eat chicken.
I was about to say, he did a little bit more than eating chicken, but that's
right,
about it.
Right, he didn't eat chicken, so he's better than that Felix.
Villains, Brad Whitaker and General Georgy Koskov. 2 for 1 this time. 2 knuckleheads that together couldn't make a legitimate threat to anyone but themselves. They are masterfully portrayed, though, both of them. And I've gushed about both of these men having the chops and being perfectly cast this whole review. Krabe nailed every aspect of Koskov, from general to shit con man to sniveling coward to even fake doctor convincingly. And Joe Baker brought this Bond villain to life in a way that no one really had before him. They were weak with no real plan though, and both of them were just punk losers who got a little power and harebrained ideas about how to abuse that power until it got them killed. Like I said, real. 4th place.
Oh, he ranked him a little higher than me. I did rank him kind of high on my list, but they didn't get as high as they could have gotten had their plan and plot and,
Oh, you wanted more stakes. Yeah, that's fair.
So I gave him 7th place.
Main Hinch, Necros, a freelance assassin that speaks in at least 4 accents and loves strangling people. He's fit and fearless, jumping on planes from trucks when other planes are landing in front of them. He's cold and cunning, and another stroke of amazing casting. 11th place, just for being memorable.
Necros was somewhat intimidating as an assassin, just the methodical, robotic way he went about his business. I don't know. I gave this guy 7th place because he's not as good as the greatest henchman, but he wasn't useless. He strangled people with a Walkman, and I don't know if you ever used Walkman headphones for anything, but that's almost impossible.
Bond Girl, Cara Malovi, a cellist and naive sucker that is hooked on every line sent her way. She is used and abused by all players and is a true pawn forced to confront situations, slowly fight back more and more, and become stronger until the end when she also has a complete arc. She starts off the worst, but ends perfectly, and the journey makes it all worth it. I never appreciated her character when I was young, but I dig her now. 7th place.
Well, we're going to have to disagree on this Bond Girl. I think I've already covered my reasons why.
They're superficial, and you're ignoring the fact that she actually has more of an arc than practically any Bond girl ever before. But sure, go ahead and say you hate her because she starts off annoying.
No, I'm not saying I hate her because she starts off annoying. I'm saying I don't feel... I mean, okay, yes, a little, but I feel like her character was more of a tool to progress the story.
So? They all are. And name one that's had growth before now.
Oh, I don't know. None of them really.
Exactly. But go ahead and explain why she's the worst.
I didn't say she was the worst, but I did give her 14th place.
Oh, damn. And I'm not editing any of this shit. I'm skewering you for that ranking. One-liner. They have the classics added in post, like he got the boot. But Bond shouting, "We have nothing to declare," as they slid past the rinky-dink border on a cello case cracks me up. Probably because if I found myself sledding past a border, it's something I would say. People say Timothy is so wooden and stiff and boorish. But really, he's hella charming and definitely has comedic timing. He just doesn't hit you with an endless assault of puns like Roger did for 7 films. And when they joke, it's more effective for it. 6th place.
My one-liner... Like, I had a real toss-up. It was the "I got the message" one line.
Yeah.
That motherfucking line right there. That was like, oh, shit, this dude That's ice cold. But the one that really got me was glad I insisted you brought the cello. Because that's exactly something I would say after insisting that we do not
Of
go get that
course.
fucking cello. It's like, no, we're not going to get that. Man, I'm glad I said we're going to go get that cello. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and
that
I
does
gave it,
sound like something you would say.
I gave it 6th place.
Locations: Gibraltar, Bratislava, Vienna, Tangier, Afghanistan. It's a globe-hopping adventure, but it feels like we go back to Bratislava needlessly and could have gotten the girl in another way. Vienna feels tacked on completely. Tangier and Afghanistan feel like the same place because they were both shot in Morocco. Tidbit for you specifically, though, Carter, the conference room that they shot Pushkin in was the same room that they shot the orgy scene for Eyes Wide Shut, and yet another Bond Eyes Wide Shut location share.
Nice.
I digress. 13th place.
I dug the Gibraltar location and the use of that location and the way they opened it up. I thought I was going to get a whole lot of that, and I didn't. And I was a little more disappointed throughout the rest of the movie. And I don't want to, I'm going to have to say it. Aside from that, the rest of the locations, it's coming. They were boring and pedantic. If the locations don't jump out at me like in the first movies when they had a helicopter budget or whatever, if I'm not getting that in a Bond movie, then I'm not getting my locations. I'm not getting good shit. I gave this one 8th place overall. There were worse movies. Like you said, they used same locations twice. Afghanistan looked nothing. And I do mean Afghanistan's not even red, dude.
Like, that's so messed up what y'all did to fucking Afghanistan. Bro, a lot of that was in America. That was the Mojave Desert. Get out of here.
Yeah. So, 8th place.
Protracted attempt to kill Bond. There is no protracted attempt to kill Bond, as they use him the whole movie with no intention of killing him to instead use as a fall guy after also using him to get rid of Pushkin. 15th place.
Okay. I somewhat agree with you, but I thought we were going to count the plane ride as a protracted attempt to kill Bond because we've got the fight on the back of the plane and the bomb at the same time.
Well, that wasn't a protracted attempt to kill Bond. Bond went back to defuse the bomb and Home Dude started fighting him, and then she opened up the fucking door.
Right. It just all seemed like that same kind of, I don't know. I still gave it 13th place. It's fucking ridiculous.
The mission or plot: protect a Soviet general and high KGB operative as he defects, and later when he's taken, find and return him. Here's where it all falls down, though. The plot of the movie revolves around all of that being just a simple bad lie. They killed 2 agents to set up a political rival to be assassinated so they could keep his money and use diamonds to buy drugs, to sell to buy guns, to sell. Even though one's a general and another is an underbaked, overcocked American who saw too many movies and went to be an arms dealer the same way he sold used Pontiacs. Do they even know what they're doing next? Or why? Nope. But they had a villa and lobster and girls and toy soldiers. Very low in actual scope to the point of non. 15th place.
I guess we agree on more than one thing. I also gave this 15th place because the plot on this was just dumb. Like, this is one of the dumbest plots in a Bond movie I've ever...
It's not dumb. It's not dumb like Carl Stromberg's plot is dumb. You know, it's not dumb like Octopussy was dumb. Like, what's going on? I have no idea. It's dumb as in, why is Bond... If they didn't involve the British in the first place, Bond never would have given a shit. They never would have taken it over to him like, this guy is selling drugs. Give it to someone else. Like, this is not 00 level.
Unless their plan was to kill Pushkin the whole time, which it wasn't.
And it wasn't. That was reactionary to the 50 mil being asked for back.
Right? So, like, it made no sense.
It's just they're knuckleheads who had no real plan. Like, they'd been stealing money, and one got caught, and he went to go live at his boy's house, and they were basically going to be, like, dumbasses on the run. They basically got power, abused it to the point to where they were about to get whacked off. Honestly, they were already doing that. And then they tried to manipulate the British government into bailing them out of their situations for them. And all that did was pretty much ensure further that they were going to be killed. It never didn't make decisions that didn't screw them.
Right.
The British were called there to protect a defector. And as soon as they realized that it was all bullshit, like this should have been passed down. I mean, the CIA were already watching him.
Right. It felt like a pair of bumbling stoners who came up with an idea to try to get some money selling guns.
I don't think the movie's stupid in the way it's written. I think that the villains were stupid and realistic for it. For me, the whole real question is why did M let Bond waste his time with any of this? And why is this a plot in a Bond movie? Like, couldn't y'all have added something a little bit more consequential?
I guess just because they were killing double O's, but whatever.
Fuck off. In the end, Bond is basically, no matter what the setup was or what we thought we were doing, in the end, Bond is stopping two knuckleheads from basically selling weapons and drugs and diamonds to sell more weapons before they just get themselves killed because they're stupid.
Right.
And what ramifications do that have? What consequences does this have for the rest of the world? Where is me as a viewer? Do I feel invested in the plot and worried about the outcome? Nowhere.
Right.
Stunts. The stunts are awesome. They skydive, ramp rovers off cliffs, had their lead hanging onto the cloth top of a rover as it sped along cliff sides. And that's just the opening. There's rocket cars and ice gags. Yes, there's skiing. Crazy aerial stunts, bifurcated cars. Having an actor that's willing to get close-ups, mids, and wides doing a stunt works wonders for presentation and immersion. Like everything else in this movie, the stunts are more subdued, but what's there is done well and stands out far more for the space. Third place.
And I gave this fourth place overall because, exactly what you said, because these people were doing their own stunts. It makes the stunt work so much better.
More immersive.
Sir Sean Connery, God rest his soul, love him to pieces, lazy actor. Just lazy. And Roger Moore is just too old. So having a young Timothy Dalton do his own stunts, I'm excited for the future of the Bond franchise from here on out.
The score.
The score. Okay, so music is my kind of thing, so I'm always listening. The horns are blasting in that throughout the film. It's subtle. It's not as bad as Never Say Never, where it's like there's no music and it's like, what the fuck is going on here? The music is used so well placed in the action scenes where it's needed and nowhere else. It's so perfect on the refrains. There's only 3 films better, so I gave this fourth place.
The score is masterful. John Barry is back at it again. He had a slump midway through his Bond career, but came back with a vengeance. This score fits the movie and era's tone perfectly and blends different themes for characters and locations beautifully throughout the entire film. Sixth place. Movie.
Overall, this is a really good James Bond movie. Y'all can eat a dick. Sorry, I don't want to offend anybody. You guys can have your own opinions about these movies. But this movie's good. It's a good movie.
Especially after watching Octopussy.
I don't even want to go there. Don't even want to go there.
It's like a palate cleanser before a taste test. You watch Octopussy, anything you watch after that's going to be great.
Apparently. But this movie's really good. I gave this movie overall 5th place. It is not a bad movie at all.
This movie was so easy to get through. A delight. I enjoyed it like a breath of fresh air. The tonal shift. The minor bump into modernity. The more serious Bond. I loved every bit of it without complaint, except for one big thing. The lack of a real plot. The plot was basically to stop 2 knuckleheads from doing stuff for reasons. They were aimless. Their plan was barely consequential. Their goals were non-consequential. If they hadn't had tried to trick the British Secret Service into doing their dirty work, or just otherwise been so stupid at every other point, maybe they'd be alive, and this movie would have felt worth something more than Bond got tricked, so he hunted them down and killed them. If not for this one flaw, this movie would have been amazing. Just the one flaw that it had was way too big.
It is a big flaw.
Third place. And as they said, Bond will return, and so will we. Until then,
I'm Agent Carter.
And I'm Agent Sedgwick.
Stay spy now.